Greetings Internet, and welcome to Bookworm Reviews. I'm your host, the Bookworm. Neil Gaiman. The people love him. Yes, Neil Gaiman, the London bloke who has gained massive popularity writing fantasy stories for comics, TV, film, and of course, books. His stories are some of the best the genre has to offer from the last 2 decades. You can't call yourself a fantasy fan if you haven't heard or read Neil Gaiman. And like Mark Twain from last week, I've never read a Gaiman book.
You're dead to me.
I may be a bookworm, but sometimes books I want to read slip in between the cracks of my bookshelf to be forgotten. Let's fix that. Sit back and relax as we dive into Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman.
He's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody.
The girl's face was crusted with dirt, and her clothes were wet with blood. "She's hurt," he said simply. There was an expression on his face that Jessica hadn't seen before. "Richard," she warned, and then she relented a little and offered a compromise. "Dial 999 and call an ambulance then. Quickly now." Suddenly, the girl's eyes opened, white and wide in a face that was little more than a smudge of dust and blood. "Not a hospital, please. They'll find me. Take me somewhere safe, please." Her voice was weak. "You're bleeding," said Richard. He looked to see where she had come from, but the wall was blank and brick and unbroken. He looked back to her still form and asked, "Why not a hospital?" "Help me," the girl whispered, and her eyes closed. Again, he asked her, "Why don't you want to go to the hospital?" This time there was no answer at all. "When you call the ambulance," said Jessica, "don't give your name. You might have to make a statement or something, and then we'll be late." "Richard, what are you doing?" Richard had picked the girl up, cradling her in his arms. She was surprisingly light. "I'm taking her back to my place, Jess. I can't just leave her. Tell Mr. Stockton I'm really sorry, but it was an emergency. I'm sure he'll understand." "Richard Oliver Mayhew," said Jessica coldly, "you put that girl down and come back here this minute, or this engagement is at an end as of now. I'm warning you." Richard felt the sticky warmth of blood soaking into his shirt. Sometimes he realized there was nothing you can do. He walked away, leaving behind Jessica, who stood there on the sidewalk, her eyes stung with tears. Richard Mayhew lives an ordinary life in London, with an office job, a decent apartment, and a fiancée. But all that changes when he finds an injured woman named Dor. After helping her, Richard finds no one can see him. He has fallen through a crack in the world to London below, where the impossible can happen. His journey below the London Underground will make him face the stuff of nightmares, if he ever wants to get his old life back. So this book has a bit of a history. Neil Gaiman created Neverwhere as a TV show for the BBC. He then wrote this book, which released when the show aired. Then he made changes for the international release. Then he made one more, which is called the Author Preferred Text, where he combined the original and international versions with a few additions released in 2006. I don't have that version, but these things always annoy me because I feel I'm missing out on the true experience. Pet peeve of mine. Neverwhere itself is a very good urban fantasy story. Gaiman's writing style is filled with combining the realistic with the fantastic, turning London below into a living, breathing place where anything can happen. The story moves at a great pace with a lively cast of characters, along with a great sense of humor that doesn't bog the story down. As I was reading this, I kept screaming at myself why I have never picked up one of his books before. But there are a few flaws. Well, there are 2 things that stop me from calling this book perfect. First off is the setting itself. Again, London Below is a great setting in and of itself. How the citizens use the underground tunnels, new and old, to get across, as well as some wibbly-wobbly space travel like Doctor Who. The fact people from all across time fell through the cracks and can't be seen leads to several homeless allegories, especially based on how they dress. There is a lot to sink your teeth into. It just doesn't sink its teeth enough. You hear the characters tell Richard a bit about the history of the world, how London below is fractured into several tribes, as well as a marketplace that changes location every night. But I wanted to know more and wasn't getting it. We don't get a full sense of how big this world is. We don't meet or learn of all the major tribes or the many supernatural creatures that live there. There's a lot here, but it doesn't give us the full scope. My second issue was with the climax. Without giving away spoilers, Dora is trying to figure out who hired Mr. Croup and Mr. Vandermeer, who, by the way, are some of the most evil people I've ever read. You always feel slimy when these characters appear. Kill their family, and why? Richard joins her quest, and there is quite a bit of build-up to the revelation. But like with the setting, I felt we didn't get to sink our teeth in enough. The villain reveal is too soon in my opinion. We are given the big reveal, but it's only to us, the audience, not to the characters till later on. And by then, we already know, which makes the revelation less impactful. The other part of that is the villain's motivation. The motivation itself is good, but I wish we were given more history about the villain. What was he like? Why did he do what he did? We are given some information, but it's like we are only given a piece of a larger picture that we are not allowed to see as a whole. That best describes the problem with Neverwhere. We are given just a piece, but not the whole picture. Like there are hints that there is something more to Richard than meets the eye, which never gets answered. His foreshadowing where he must fight a monster is anticlimactic, and the story itself ends with a few hanging threads that never get addressed. Piece of a picture, but not of the whole. But after all that, I can't deny that this is a great story. We may have only been given a piece of a picture, but it is a beautifully detailed and lively picture. The cast of characters from our main fish-out-of-water lead Richard, to the trickster Marcus de Cambrius, I don't know if I'm saying that right, to sweet Dor, all are distinctive, along with a big cast of supporting characters that each add their own flavor to the story as a whole. I love these characters and the world. I love how Richard and Dor don't fall in love like so many other stories would have done. The humor in the book is brilliantly paced to show how out of depth Richard is in this world. His arc is fascinating, from being a wimp to a hero in his own right. A classic hero's journey. There is still so much to love about this book as a whole, even if it isn't the whole picture. Now, there aren't any sequels, but Gaiman did say he would like to return to the world of Neverwhere, which would be awesome. There are too many possibilities and stories not to go back. If you are looking for a great urban fantasy story and wanting to find a great entry point for Neil Gaiman, then you can't go wrong here. What about you, Internet? What's your opinion? Next week, we will be closing out Bookworm Reviews for 2013 with a new look into a classic character with one of the longest titles in the history of ever. Till next time, have a nice day.